This week, the Fortress of Nerditude is once again without our co-host, Steve Madura. Steve is currently with his family, spending some quality time. His dad is going through some medical issues, and we are happy that he is taking a hiatus and is with his family and where he needs to be. Our thoughts and prayers continue to go out to Steve and his family, and especially his father, Tim Madura. We hope for a speedy recovery and that Steve will be able to join us back in the Fortress of Nerditude when the time is appropriate. You ready to do this, Britta?
I'm ready to do this, Spence. Punch it, Chewie.
Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot tonight is Britta Stapleton.
Hey there, everybody.
We're two best friends and lovers that, despite being fathers, wives, husbands, and mothers, we just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode number 62. We release every Thursday morning on iTunes, Google Music, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, and any podcasting app you could probably think of. If you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week in your ear holes. Britta, it's been a little while since you've been on the podcast.
Yeah.
You usually join us for the movie clubs, and you've missed the last one or two. We've had some kind of a full slate of things. We've been really busy.
Yep.
How are you? Tell the super friends what you have been up to this last week and a little before.
All right. Well, I know this is not news to you, but yeah, we've been pretty busy. We've had some sicknesses in the house.
Okay.
We've also had some slightly exciting adventures, at least to me. So our oldest, Charlie, is 5, and he's going to be starting kindergarten this fall.
Too soon.
Which is kind of insane. We're freaking out about it a little bit. So we're in the process of choosing a school. We're applying to some charter schools, and last week they had an open house for one of the schools we're thinking about, and we went to that and took the kids, and I think we had a pretty good time. It was rather interesting, learned a lot about the school. This school actually has a Spanish immersion program, which,
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
As you know, Spence, you are a little nervous about.
I'm very nervous about this idea.
I think it'll be fine. I think Charlie will do awesome. I think he'll pick up the Spanish really well, and he'll do good, and then he'll just be able to talk behind our backs, and we'll never understand what he's saying.
Yeah, but you can tell by the tone, I think. And the back of my hand works in English or Spanish, so it's fine.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Like I said, I'm not so much worried about Charlie, but I'm worried about Jackson, who, is working through some speech therapy issues right now. And so, English is tough for him. And so the idea of learning Spanish, because that's only, literally a year and a half away, he would be going there if they get in. So that worries me a little bit. Plus, I've been doing some research on schools and school ratings, and, it used to be a little higher in test scores, and it's not as high anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we still have some decisions to make. We won't know if he gets accepted for a few more days at least. I think they maybe start the lotteries on the 1st of February, which is about when this podcast is getting released. So, so we may know by now. Who knows? So yeah, so we did that last week. It was fun. And then Charlie had his 5-year-old kindergarten checkup at the doctor's office. Mm-hmm. And that was always adventurous. It was the first time they asked him to pee in a cup. Unfortunately, being the mom that I am, I made him pee before we went to the doctor's office. So he was not able to do that.
Bad call. You don't remember about peeing in cups for the doctor's office, do you?
Not when you're 5.
Yeah.
I have to do it every time I go to the doctor. I'm sure you have to do it every time you go to the doctor, but not a 5-year-old.
I haven't been to a doctor for a regular checkup in probably a good 15 years, so I don't know. I would imagine so, though.
Yeah, that's still standard practice.
I've been to, super friends, don't get me wrong, I've been to doctors in the past. I've had shoulder surgeries, and I've hurt my back, and, whatever. But I haven't been to a standard a yearly checkup in many, many years.
Yeah, well, you should probably do that.
Yeah.
I
figure I've seen enough. They've got enough of my money.
I think with this whole trend, oh, please, it's free.
Yeah, nothing's free, Britta. Nothing is
We're already
free.
paying for the insurance. Go
See?
for your annual checkup. It's free, people. Use your preventative services. This is what I do.
It's not free, though. You pay money for that insurance, so you can
use it.
It's
Since
a
you're
racket,
paying,
I tell you.
use it.
It's a racket. I'm not going to give into it. Well, good. Anything else going on that the Super Friends should be aware of?
Nothing else from me. What do you got?
So this week, I have been extremely sick for the last few days.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into details, but let's just say, do you remember in the first X-Men movie where the senator gets exposed to the kind of like the gene radiation?
Yeah.
And he ends up kind of like bloating into that big guy, and he becomes like all kind of liquid, and
Like
then
a
eventually
watery thing.
they touch him and he pops.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. I haven't popped like that in that manner necessarily, but I feel like my insides have liquefied and I'm just a pool that's, contained within this meat sack of a body. That's how I feel right now.
That's graphic enough. Thank you.
Well, I got to bring a little something here. But other than that, I had a real fun time over the weekend prior to getting sick. My boss and my coworkers, we all had a poker night. And we haven't done that in quite a long time. And I got to admit, it was a lot of fun taking money off of my coworkers and staying out late and just kind of, living it up a little bit and pretending like we were, dumb teenagers and just laughing and telling stories and whatnot. But, so that was good. Like you said, went with you and Charlie and Jackson to the school. Just kind of the usual. I do have a side project that I'm not going to get too much into right now, but I've got a side project that I've been looking into that I want to bring to the world, maybe as a podcast, maybe as a YouTube series. I'm not kind of sure yet because I'm still kind of in the planning phases, but there's something else, I got in the works, and I'm kind of getting really excited about it. You know what it is because you've seen me doing a lot of research lately, but I'm going to keep it under wraps for a little bit. A little
Good
teaser,
idea.
A little suspense there.
There you go.
A little suspense for you. So, that's been my week. A lot of big stuff coming up, and we'll have to jump off that when we get there. Anyway, what do you say we just kick this right off? We got a lot going on this week. Why don't you say we just get into Rebel Intelligence?
Let's do it.
I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
Okay, Britta, we are into Rebel Intelligence. You know what? Ladies' choice, I will let you start off first. Where would you like to go in the galaxy?
I'm going to start off with, there's a new feature that's coming out with Google, like the app, the OK Google, that kind of a thing.
The Google Assistant.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called. So now they're saying there's code in the mobile app currently that will let you, you won't have to say, hey Google or OK Google or something like that. You'll be able to create what they're calling like a hot word where you'll be able to pick what it is you want to say that will notify Google that you're trying to talk to it and get it to help you out.
That's funny because, just as you were talking about that, you triggered our Google Home speaker upstairs.
Yes, I did. Just heard it.
So here's my thing, and this is the problem I've always kind of had because I love Google, and obviously we're both on Android phones, and we use that service, the Google Assistant. I don't like having to use the Hey Google or the OK Google commands because it doesn't feel as natural. Like with Apple, it's Siri, right? There's a name. With Amazon, you got Alexa. But I know you can also say Amazon or Echo or computer for the Amazon products. I think Siri is just Siri.
Right.
I really like this idea though that you can program your own kind of like hot word or keyword that'll trigger that.
Right. I do too. And I like it especially too because as we just saw or heard at least personally that our Google Assistant went off just because we said that. Well, Google is a rather common word nowadays.
Right.
I mean, you can use it as a verb or however, people talk about it all the time. So, that tends to happen that your Google Assistant goes off when you say something, not meaning to. And I like the idea of this because you can create maybe a name for it that's not a name you would normally say otherwise in your life or just some random word that you just don't typically use that you can use to, to acknowledge that assistant.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I can see it being used. I'm going to have to figure out a name, something to use with my phone.
Oh, I already know what mine's going to be.
What's yours going to be?
Doctor.
Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So
Like Doctor Who.
So you're going to say, okay, doctor?
Something like that, yeah.
Or hey, doctor?
Yeah. Something like that. I think that would be good.
Will it be the doctor?
It might be. That actually might be better to be the doctor.
You might have to say the doctor. And you wouldn't actually say Doctor Who.
No.
Yeah, he would just be the doctor.
But that's not his name. His name is just the doctor.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would use yet, because I haven't really thought about it much. But I want to find something that's not a common name, not something that like it wouldn't be like your name or one of the boys' names or anything like that. And it definitely isn't going to be Google. Although you can still use OK Google and Hey Google, right?
Yeah. Yep. You can still use the same ones, but you can add other ones.
I want to find something that's like, maybe I'll make it Voldemort.
There you go.
Because, you're not supposed to say Voldemort's name.
You should just call it He Who Must Not Be
Yeah,
Named. You have to say the whole phrase.
That's too long. That's too long. Now, it would be even better if I could get its like response instead of saying like, yes, how can I help you? But say something like, don't say his name out loud, like the clip of like Ron Weasley.
Right.
Like the audio. That would be kind of cool. I don't know what it's going to be, but I want it to be something that's unique and stands out. So when I have to say it in public, like I'm flying the nerd flag.
Yeah, totally.
Like someone's going to be like, what did he just say? He just said necromancer? What? Or
Smog?
Sauron.
There you go. That's
Okay,
a good
Sauron. Yes. I don't know, something like the great eye sound. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, I like it. I'm excited. I can't wait for it to go on the mobile app, but then also to the Google Home speakers.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Like I figured that'll take a little while, but it can't take too long,
Come up with something awesome for our kids to be saying.
Right? Yes.
Because they love to play with Google.
Yeah, that would be really cool if I could get them to say something like, hey, Bilbo Baggins, or something like that. Or Frodo.
Oh my gosh, they would love it.
Yeah.
That'd be adorable.
That would be awesome.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we're going to totally do that.
Oh, Smeagol.
That's going to be a tough one for Jackson, but...
Yeah, that'd be really tough for Jackson.
Or just, my precious.
Oh, gosh, yes. That'd be awesome. Be precious.
I love it.
My precious. Anyway.
New life plans.
Yeah, I mean, I could think about this for quite some time, I would say. So here's the thing. Are you excited for the Black Panther movie coming out February 16th?
Okay, so I've seen a couple previews, and I am excited about it. I still don't really know a lot about it, and it looks kind of intense. But, like, I'm not as excited about other movies, but I still think it's going to be awesome, and I'm totally going to go see it.
So I'm really kind of excited about it because we're going to get a continuation of a character that we've already seen
right.
From Captain America Civil War, right? With T'Challa, the Black Panther. But this is going to like happen in Wakanda. From the previews, we see that, Cap is there. And so, or that we know Cap was there from the end of Civil War.
Right.
And from the Avengers Infinity trailer, it looks like he's still hanging out in Wakanda. So even though I don't think maybe Cap is going to have much of a role, if any, in this movie,
right.
I think knowing that he's still probably there and hiding out is exciting. Reviews are in. They just had Monday night, they just had the big premiere in Hollywood, and everyone is talking about this. They're already saying this is probably going to be the best Marvel movie. Now, it's kind of crazy because like that's what people said about Thor Ragnarok.
Right.
And that's what people were saying about, the last one before that and whatnot.
Every single Marvel movie.
Like the hyperbole just kind of...
Because they're all awesome.
That is true, but the hyperbole does tend to get a little much at times. But everyone's saying that this is really, really excellent. That it's got great acting, great action, good humor in the right places, and I'm really excited to go see this. I'm kind of torn because we don't have movie tickets for it yet,
right?
And I know it's sold out a ton of places, and I really want to use my movie pass on it because
but wait for that.
I've got that movie pass. Well, that's the thing though. If I can go like the morning of, and if there's like some single tickets, I can just race over to a movie theater and snag it. I don't know. It may be that I don't, maybe that I have to pay for the first time to see it, but then maybe I don't pay because I used the movie pass for the second time, and Anyway, by the way, we've used the movie pass 4 times this month already.
Yeah.
So
totally worth it.
Once pays off the monthly fee, but we've used it 3 times above and beyond that.
Okay, can I just tell you one other thing that I'm kind of excited about this Black Panther movie?
Yeah.
So from the previews, from what I've seen, like, you know, he's the king, right? And
Yep.
he's got his powers or whatever, his suit and stuff.
Yep.
And he's got like a handful of close people that look like they're pretty awesome too, that are going to be really cool in this movie. But I see in the previews that you see like them running or something with like a huge group of people, like hundreds of people, which normally one of these superheroes doesn't have like a whole following with them. You know, like Captain America is just Captain America. But in this one, it looks like it's like all of his people that he's leading that are like running and fighting with him. That's what it looks like.
Are you sure that's the Black Panther preview? Or is
yeah.
that the Avengers Infinity War preview?
Oh, maybe it is. I don't know. I get things confused.
Because there is that...
I have no idea.
There is that scene in the Avengers Infinity War trailer where you see like a ton of people in what looks like Wakanda all running like out of the trees and kind of coming out in mass.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Okay. So yeah, you're probably thinking of the Infinity War trailer then. But still
kind of awesome.
Still kind of awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, looks real good. So yeah, basically Hollywood's loving this thing.
Nice.
So go see this February 16th. If you don't have a ticket, go get a ticket now. If you got Movie Pass, good luck getting in on opening weekend, because I think it's gonna be a little hard, so to speak.
Pay a little extra.
Speaking of Africa, which that's a horrible segue, by the way.
Right?
T'Challa and Wakanda, because it's supposed to be in Africa,
Yeah,
right?
I know. I get it.
Speaking of Africa, that's really my bad. So this happened this last week, that there's been a new species of dinosaur that has been found, and it's been named the Mansaurus shahaine. It's about a 14,000-pound titanosaur. And the interesting thing about this is it was found in the African desert, like in this landscape area where previously there'd been like a lot of questions as to like what kind of happened, because in the early Triassic period and the Jurassic period, that's when we know most about the dinosaurs. But during the Cretaceous period, when like Pangea, the whole, planet was all one landmass, was breaking apart, a lot of these dinosaurs kind of had gotten pushed into these land masses, and so they kind of evolved from there, and so there's some differences. Well, apparently, though, they're kind of bridging a gap that they didn't know about, that apparently maybe at that time, Europe and Africa hadn't really separated yet, because this dinosaur, this titanosaur, this Mansaurus, is very, very like closely related to some of the dinosaurs that were found in southern Europe, and that and this was in Egypt's like western desert where this was found, and so they previously thought that they were isolated, but now they're saying like, well, now it's not, and they found this fossil and they were able to like kind of, I don't know, digitize it maybe and reconstruct kind of what it looked like, and they found, I think, like parts of its skull and like a lower jaw, vertebrae, ribs, shoulder, forelimb, and a foot, something like that. And so they were able to like reconstruct all this, and it's helping scientists figure out like kind of what was going on during that Cretaceous period when Pangea was all breaking up. And then they're saying at this time dinosaurs were still getting between southern Europe and Africa. And that's kind of neat. Like, it's something that I remember as a kid always thinking, oh, we found all the dinosaurs and that's kind of it. We know all there is to know. And here it is, like 2018. I'm going to be 39 in a month, and we're still finding out stuff about new dinosaurs and like what was going on back in that period. Like, I don't know, Brie, does that excite you? Does that interest you at all much?
Yeah, I think it's super cool whenever they can find a new dinosaur or what they think might be pieces of a new dinosaur and kind of reconstruct that. I don't know. I mean, I'm not as into dinosaurs as I probably was as a kid, but like our kids will think this is super awesome, I think, I don't know. I find it really interesting, especially finding them in Africa, because they don't usually find dinosaurs in that area from what I remember, but
yeah, not a lot, but I mean, they found a lot like in Asia and Europe,
right?
South America, the North American continent.
Yeah, but that's really interesting with it being, like you said, in the Cretaceous period before Pangea really split up, because we don't know a whole lot about that period in history. I feel like there's not a ton.
It was millions of years ago.
I understand that, but we know more about the later periods, obviously. But this is just like another key into that world.
Yeah. It was a hot minute ago, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to blame you for not knowing a ton.
Thanks.
Because, I'm kind of there with you. So, what else do you have for me, Britta?
Let's see. Oh, okay. So, speaking of the Doctor, as previously, David Tennant, and this actually happened in I think 2014. He kind of reprised his role as the Doctor. 2013. Sorry. In just kind of this little mini video that he and his wife, did for a friend of theirs who was leaving to go to Australia. They just kind of make this funny little film, and it's recently just been posted and kind of out there for everyone to find. And if you go check it out, it's really funny. I mean, if you appreciate Doctor Who, you will appreciate this.
So I saw that, and here's the thing: David Tennant's my favorite Doctor.
Yeah,
I loved him as the Doctor. When Matt Smith first kind of came on, I was probably a lot of Whovians, and I kind of went, yeah, I don't know. And then it took me a little bit, and then what really helped sink in his Doctor for me was I loved his companions. I loved Amy, and I
Rory.
grew to love Rory so much that it really kind of made me really interested in Matt Smith's version of the Doctor. But for my money, hands down, David Tennant. He's the Doctor in my mind.
Yeah, and anytime you can get more David Tennant Doctor Who, totally awesome.
Right, and so this is fun because I remember when the Day of the Doctor came out.
Right.
And you had Matt Smith's Doctor, and you had David Tennant's Doctor, and then you had John Hurt as the War Doctor there, all kind of together. And that was really exciting. That was a lot of fun. It was only an hour, but I was like, it's another hour with David Tennant.
Mm-hmm.
And so, outside of going back and rewatching past episodes of Doctor Who, seeing David Tennant do this little thing, for a script editor who was leaving to move, really just kind of a fun thing. Let me ask you this question though, Britta. Do you have a hard time now seeing David Tennant in other stuff and not thinking of him as the Doctor?
No, because I think he's a fantastic actor, actually. Because I've watched the series Broadchurch, and I don't think there's one point in that series where I think of him as the Doctor, because he is he inhabits that role, and I think he's amazing.
Well, I mean, he played what's his name? He played the villain in the first season of Jessica Jones, and he the Purple Man. I'm trying to think of what his name was. It's gonna escape me for the moment. But he was excellent in that. I mean, he played Barty Crouch Jr. in the Harry Potter movies, and everything he's in he's excellent. But after seeing him play the same role for so long,
right?
There's always a part of me when I see him do something, just something. It's there's little mannerisms, little facial things he will do, ways he will say things, or kind of exclaim, and I'm just ooh, that's just a little hint of the Doctor. It's almost there. It's right underneath the surface.
Yeah.
And so I always kind of wanted to. I just wanted to break out of that and start talking about his timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly space stuff, and and give us just a little bit of that. So this for me was kind of a big treat to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved it.
So, Britta, let me ask you a question. Do you know much about Elon Musk?
I recognize his name.
So Elon Musk is the founder of Tesla, founder of SpaceX. Okay. I think he's a little egotistical. He's kind of nuts. He sets these huge, massive goals, and then especially with the Tesla stuff, he really hasn't been delivering. He said he was going to have X number of Model 3s out in September, and then October, November, and December, and he's missing the delivery dates and this and that. But he's one of the richest guys in the world, right? In America at least. Yeah. So he founded SpaceX, right? And he's sent rockets up, and some of these rockets have exploded on the launch pad. Some have gone up in the air and exploded. Some have, gone up, circled the Earth, and then come back down, and then exploded in the launch pad. Because he's also trying to get he had this video, and I saw him actually do it, where he has a video come back and land on a launch pad, vertically, so it could take off again, basically.
Yeah, rather than just fall apart and land in the ocean.
Right, exactly. So he's now saying that he has his newest rocket, which is called the Falcon Heavy, which is a launch vehicle that's being billed as the most powerful rocket in the world, and they're saying it's going to be ready for launch on February 6th.
Wow.
And the idea behind this rocket, this is kind of crazy, is that basically it's going to eventually carry astronauts or equipment to Mars as part of SpaceX's program to like basically have human habitation on Mars.
So we're colonizing Mars now.
Yes, through Elon Musk.
He's going to make a lot of money.
Right. That's basically what it is. They're basically saying the only more powerful rocket ever developed by humans was NASA's Saturn V, which obviously sent, men to the moon in the 70s. But the difference is, like the Falcon Heavy, its ability to be like reusable, like its 3-stage boosters, they're saying are like reusable. Where like Saturn V, they'd go up and they would separate and they'd burn up in the atmosphere and they were done.
Right.
These are meant to be reusable, so they could use them over and over and over again.
Come back, get more people, go back up to Mars. Come back, get more people. Yeah.
So the really interesting thing for this kind of hearing this, announcement is that Elon Musk also joked about putting the new Tesla Roadster into space, and the Roadster is like the newest, vehicle in the Tesla line. That's kind of like a prototype that's supposed to be able to go crazy amount of distance on a battery charge.
Okay.
And of course, it's like, I don't know, like $200,000. It's like a crazy price for this vehicle. And they've actually shown like footage or like pictures of this thing in the payload chamber.
Oh, wow.
For this Falcon Heavy. He's also going to be carrying like telecommunication equipment, like satellites and whatnot.
Right.
But I just look at this, I'm like, that's a $200,000 or however many millions in R&D, like, prototype vehicle. Why are you going to blast it out into space where no one can use that dang thing?
Yeah.
There's not a supercharging station out there.
It's not an astronaut who's going to drive it around Mars.
Right? And it's like, every comedian, has ever said, like, we're humans and men are so dumb that, we're going to go to the moon. What do we want to do up there? We want to drive a car.
Yeah.
And so for some reason, a new Tesla prototype is going to go up in outer space. I don't really see why that is important, but it's Elon Musk and he kind of does crazy stuff and he's got the money to do crazy stuff. So,
rich billionaires just do whatever the heck they want to.
Why couldn't he take like some like Kempo karate classes, some Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and he could become Batman?
There you go. That's a much better. Maybe he is. Maybe he's working on that in the back, but he's got his bat cave hidden away. He doesn't want you to know. And then just all of a sudden, there's a vigilante somewhere in Mars fighting non-existent crime.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It would be nice if Elon Musk could become a real-life Batman. That would be kind of cool, but I don't think he would.
Yeah, he doesn't seem the type.
No, not really. I think he's more about like
maybe he'll pay for someone else to be Batman.
Yeah, someone else for sure.
There you go.
All right, Britta, what else you got for me?
All right, so the new Han Solo movie, right?
Yep.
They are changing its name in China.
They're in China. They're changing the
Just in China, they're changing the name. The name right now, I believe, is Solo: A Star Wars Story.
Right.
But after The Last Jedi, it did not do well in China. It only made, I think, like 41 million there, which
seems really low.
Low for a Star Wars movie, especially in China.
Right.
Where it has like the highest population in the world, right?
Right.
So apparently the Star Wars name is not doing well there, so they're going to change it to Ranger Solo.
Ranger Solo.
Yeah, which I'm not going to lie is not a bad name. They don't always need Star Wars in every title, but it does kind of make me think a little bit of Lord of the Rings.
Kind of.
Right?
Kind of. So what is Ranger like? What's the Chinese translation for like ranger?
I don't know. I'm sure I think it means, let me read through. It says means a smuggler, renegade, or hotshot pilot, which obviously is Han Solo.
Okay, so like that would make sense then.
Right.
That would make sense. It is kind of interesting though that it did so poorly in China that they're changing the marketing just there.
Yeah.
I look at this and I'm like, okay, it's probably a really smart idea. Especially if The Last Jedi was a flop in China and only made 41 million is nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, because that movie made...
Average movies can make that.
Right, exactly. And plus you had movies like the World of Warcraft movie, which made like $1 billion over there. Now, granted, I get, it's a video game that's very, very popular in Asia as well.
Yep.
And they probably don't have as big a history with Star Wars over there as we do over here, and like the love for it, and it maybe wasn't a cultural touchstone like it is here.
Right.
But still, $41 million is not a lot of money.
Yeah. I think that's a smart move then.
I mean, I would
try
make
and
that.
distance themselves from that name, but I mean, I can't imagine just changing the name though is going to make that big of a difference, because everyone knows who Han Solo is. But I feel like just the name of Han Solo hopefully will carry the weight of the Star Wars versus the Star Wars name. You know what I mean? Because it's back to the original, whereas The Last Jedi isn't necessarily back to the original. So, I mean, I don't know how China feels about the original Star Wars movies, but at least here, I feel like just hearing the name Han Solo carries a lot of weight.
It'll be interesting to see, because I just have this feeling like maybe the other ones doesn't have, I don't know, maybe they don't have maybe they don't have the cultural frame of reference for the original ones. But I guess we'll have to see what the old marketing does for them on that front and see kind of what happens. Okay, Britta, so I've got something for you. So, all right. As you know, I am a reader and a lover of good books, especially kind of sci-fi and fantasy.
Yep.
And I introduced you to the Kingkiller Chronicles, which is the first one is Name of the Wind, and then the second one's The Wise Man's Fear.
Yes.
They are probably two of my all-time favorite books. It's my all-time favorite series. We're still waiting on book 3. I'm patient enough to wait until it's done and done right.
Right.
But a little while ago, maybe a year and a half ago, Patrick Rothfuss, the author, sold some rights to a movie and to a television and some video games based in this world.
Right.
And we know that our wonderfully amazing, talented Lin-Manuel Miranda, who created Hamilton, In the Heights, did music for Moana, he loves this series.
Right.
Matter of fact, I read that he based the song in Hamilton when you've got Alexander Hamilton, you've got John Lawrence, you've got Marquis Lafayette, and you've got
Hercules
Mulligan all in the bar together, and they're kind of singing a drinking song.
The Story of Tonight.
The Story of Tonight, yes, that's the song.
Yeah.
But they're singing this song, and they're having this moment where they're all kind of planning for the future. They're talking about and singing about, that this night's going to be a night to be remembered because this is basically the start of their revolution.
Right.
They're going to join this, and after tonight, everything's going to change. There'll be more people, but tonight it's just us, and it's just the 4 of us. He actually was inspired by a scene from The Name of the Wind where the hero of the story, Kavoth, is sitting with his friends Willem and Sim, and they're drinking in the Aeolian, which is a bar, but it's also a musical tavern where musicians can go and can earn their talent pipes, the right to sing or play on stage. And it's a place where local patrons of the arts will come and try to find a musician so that they can get them on as a patron and give them money. So anyway, Lin-Manuel Miranda loved that scene so much that he tried to write that feeling of that scene using the beautiful prose from Patrick Rothfuss and injected that into his musical Hamilton.
Right.
Of course, Patrick Rothfuss loves Lin-Manuel Miranda. They've got a budding bromance going on. It's been going on for a little while now. So Patrick Rothfuss brought Lin-Manuel Miranda into the project, and Lin-Manuel Miranda is going to be a creative director and is also going to write some music. Well, now they're saying that I guess it's Variety is reporting that the director Sam Raimi, who directed the first 3 Spider-Man movies, did the Evil Dead movies, that he is being slated to be the one to direct a film based on the novel. And apparently they're going to do movies based on the novels, and the TV series is going to be what took place before the book series starts. Oh,
interesting.
And so I'm really excited. I really like Sam Raimi as a director. I think would be an excellent choice for this project. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I didn't know a whole lot about this project beforehand, but that sounds awesome. I mean, getting some big names involved, especially Lin-Manuel Miranda, you know, someone who really loves this story and wants to do it justice. I love that. And I think, you know, Sam Raimi is as good a director as, you know, plenty of others that he could probably do a really good job with it. So I guess we'll see where it goes and where they take this. But I'm just excited that this is happening because I love this book series and it's exciting. In fact, I actually got a text from one of my friends today who was asking me for book recommendations, and I had told her about this one and she was trying to find it. Sent me a picture today of Name of the Wind and said, "Was this the one you're talking about?" I said, "Yep, that's awesome. Start reading it." So
I have a coworker who I recommended the Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson, and so he read through the first 3 books. You know, the Words of Way of Kings, Words of Radiance, and Oathbringer, and then
those books.
He also read the novella Edge Dancer, and then I also had him read Warbreaker, another book that kind of fits into that Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere.
Right.
And then we've been talking about the Name of the Wind and the Kingkiller Chronicles for a while, and so he's trying to finish up this other book. Last time I talked to him about it was probably about a week ago, but he reads very, very fast.
Yeah.
And so I know he's trying to get over and jump into this series, and I'm super excited for him. I'm super tempted to start reading it again, just because I have such a love of it. But I'm reading some other stuff currently, so I'm not going to be able to do that. My only concern.
Okay.
Concern's a good word.
Yeah.
My only concern is this. The 3rd book hasn't been released yet.
Right.
Patrick Rothfuss is writing it, but he's also doing a lot of other things. You know, he's written some novellas, and he's got his big charity World Builders.
Yep.
And so my only concern is that if a film project gets going, so let's say they do hire Sam Raimi. And so now they've got a creative director, they've got a director, you know, they'll start putting pieces together. You know, if this thing gets fast-tracked, you know, we could be looking at, you know, maybe a script within the next 6 months to a year. They could be casting, they could be shooting, and like this movie could come out maybe 2.5 years from now.
Right.
Okay, so there's going to be one movie, then there's going to be a second movie. We don't have a 3rd book yet.
Right.
And the only thing that worries me is that we get to this place like the TV show Game of Thrones, based on the series A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. Martin's only released 5 books out of a planned 7. And they've finished 7 seasons of the TV show. Now the TV show's now past the point of the books.
Right.
And they're kind of going in their own direction, but they kind of have some direction from Martin of how they think it's going to end. And so if we watch the TV show, we're going to pretty much know the end of the book series. Or at least the broad strokes of how the book series is going to end.
Right, kind of hit the main points, probably.
Right. And while I love that TV series because I loved those books, and that TV series is very much for adults and for adults only. I do not recommend it for children. It can be very, very rough at times. I don't want to have the ending of the book spoiled because I would still read the books. Don't get me wrong. But it's
hate going into it knowing what's going to happen.
I know. Yes, exactly.
How it's going to end.
Like it's the idea of like when I would like DVR like a Cubs baseball game.
Right.
And someone would blow it for me and say, "Oh, did you hear the Cubs won tonight?" It's like, well, dang it. Now do I really want to sit through 3 hours of watching baseball because I know the Cubs win?
Right.
It takes the drama, it takes the emotion, it takes the
Sometimes it doesn't matter how they won, it's just that you already know the ending.
Well, it's journey before destination.
Exactly.
Journey before destination. So my concern with this, with Patrick Rothfuss, Kingkiller Chronicles, and the movies is we get into a situation where now we're going towards a 3rd movie, and the book still isn't out yet.
Right.
That's my only concern.
I totally understand that.
So, but don't get me wrong, I want
they'll
movies
just
to be popular. I want this to be good.
Maybe they'll just be just slow enough that Patrick Rothfuss will get the book out before they start working on the 3rd one. Or maybe they'll start splitting them because, let's be honest, some of these could be split into more than one movie, aka as like Lord of the Rings style or something,
right.
You know.
Or like the last Harry Potter, or
right.
the Matrix movies, like where they
There's
film them
together. There's a lot
together.
going on in these
true.
books, like lots of stories.
Very, very true. Britta, I am
Yes.
done. Do you have anything else?
One last thing, the Ant-Man and the Wasp trailer
Oh, yes.
has come out.
Yes.
So, what are you thinking about this?
Okay. I loved Ant-Man. Did you care for that? I mean,
I loved that movie. I thought it was funny and exciting and interesting and science fiction-y and like just cool.
I would have said Ant-Man was probably one of the funnier Marvel movies up until when Thor Ragnarok came out, because that was really funny as well. But it wasn't like forced funny, I felt.
Yeah.
I loved the original Ant-Man movie. I thought it was a lot of really cool stuff. And then, of course, Ant-Man had a small part in Civil War.
Correct.
What I really like about this is this looks like it's... Because this movie comes out after the Avengers movie.
Right.
And I'm trying to think... I'm pretty sure we saw Ant-Man in the Avengers Infinity War trailer somewhere.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, we did.
So
they showed just about everybody in that.
So, right. So here's what I'm thinking. Because, like, from the trailer for Ant-Man and the Wasp, this looks like this is post-events of Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
And since it's coming out afterwards, it looks like it's also going to be post-events of Avengers Infinity War.
So do you think they're going to include the Wasp in the Infinity War? And they're just not showing it in the previews because the movie's not out?
I don't know. That
might be cool.
That's the thing. But here's the thing, like, I get the feeling like this is picking up the pieces of, like, you remember at the end of Civil War where basically all of Team Cap pretty much gets captured.
Right.
And they get put in that prison, right? That kind of floating island.
That
floating island prison, right? That Tony Stark's. So Scott Lang is in there.
Right.
And so, like, in this trailer, they're kind of talking about, yeah, well, if I would have been, the Wasp says, well, if I would have been with you, you wouldn't have got caught.
Right.
And you see, like, the FBI is tearing apart his house, and, like, his daughter's like, you need help, and da-da-da. And so, like, it looks like because Scott Lang is a criminal,
mm-hmm.
and then he joins the side of Team Cap in Civil War, which takes him from being, like, a petty criminal now to being, like, kind of a superhero that's been, criminalized now by, like, the world, right? Like, the federal government and, like, the sanctions with the Sokovia Accords and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like this is going to be a movie based on him trying to, like, take on the threat, take on this menace, this new villain that's going to show up. But it's still going to be a very small, personalized story. Like, I think we're going to have Ant-Man, I think we're going to have Wasp, but, like, I don't think we're going to have a ton of, like, the Hulk's not going to show up. And the Black Panther's not going to show up. It's not going to be a big crossover movie, but it's going to be a smaller, like, a more, like, individual movie, like, kind of like how Winter Soldier was, right? Winter Soldier came out after the events of the first Avengers movie, but it still was, like, it was basically, like, Black Widow, Captain America, and Bucky Barnes, right?
Yeah.
Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
So
a few main characters.
Yeah, just a few main characters. So I think it's going to be that. But what I kind of got out of this preview was that like, maybe what we don't see is, like, maybe he's still locked up at the start of Avengers Infinity War, and something happens, whatever's going to happen, that they realize that they need all of the superheroes,
right?
And so they're willing to
get them all out,
use their powers, or bring them back, because now I'm trying to remember. If they all broke out, or if it was just Cap that broke out at the end. Because remember, the very, very end of Civil War, we see Captain America with the Black Panther in Wakanda.
Right.
And I can't remember. I'm going to have to go back and check.
It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I feel like the rest of them are still in there? Unless they all had, like, some look that they looked at each other and then...
Why would it only be Cap, though, that gets out then?
I don't know. I gotta rewatch that.
Because I think maybe Tony let him out. I gotta rewatch.
Let's go watch it when we're done with this.
Yeah. Let's go. At least go rewatch the end scene. So here's the thing. Like, I think it's gonna be something that's gonna be like the fallout of, like, oh, maybe he's been in hiding, or maybe he's still in prison, and the events of Infinity War, and they're like, okay, now you're on our radar again, and that's why the FBI are involved, and, like, he's kind of on lockdown. I am really excited, though, that we get to see another character like the Wasp, which was played originally by Janet Van Dyne, the original Wasp, right?
Oh, right.
And then this is now, her daughter, but, like, we're going to see Ant-Man and the Wasp together, but I also like that we're in this trailer you see like cars being shrunken down and like a van and like a whole building is being shrunken down.
Yeah, the whole building. And can I just say my favorite thing at the very, very end is the Hello Kitty Pez dispenser that gets blown up gigantic and thrown at a guy on a motorcycle. That just made me laugh.
I really love this idea that they're going to use like the little discs that have the ability to to enlarge or shrink. Then they're going to use them to affect as weapons, because we saw a little tiny bit of that
right at the end of the other movie, in the big fight with like the train and the ant and all that kind of stuff, which was super fun. That was a really fun part of the movie. So I'm hoping we get that throughout this movie, because
you never knew Thomas the Train could be so deadly, right? Yeah, exactly. So I'm really, really, really excited by this movie. That trailer just dropped, and like it already has like 23 million views.
Nice.
So that movie comes out, I think, July 6th. So we've got Black Panther, which is February 16th in the Marvel MCU. Then you've got Avengers Infinity War.
Oh my gosh.
Part 1, which is May 4th. And then you're going to have Ant-Man and the Wasp, which will be July 6th.
Hitting all the high holidays.
So you don't remember the high holidays? So right around Valentine's Day.
Memorial Day.
A little before Memorial Day, and then 4th of July. The MCU high holidays, as Britta calls them.
They're the movie holidays.
I mean,
they're of the first half of the year. Obviously, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, always. But like, they don't put out a lot of great movies around like Halloween. Just like scary, crappy movies, in my opinion.
It's all the
These are all the big summer holiday movies. It's gonna be awesome.
That is true.
I'm excited.
Do you have anything else in Rebel Intelligence, Britta?
No, I think I'm all tapped out.
Okay. I am tapped out as well. So let's move on. Last week, I had Johnny Casino on the podcast, filling in for Steve, and we had a conversation about technology from like sci-fi fantasy, futuristic technology that we've been promised or that, we've been told would come.
Oh, right.
Like the hoverboard or like the Jetsons flying cars.
Yeah.
And we talked about like what technology we would like to see, or what technology we would love to have become a real thing, Britta, what's a technology you think you would love to see from like, movies or TV or whatnot?
I want the fax machine from Back to the Future that tells me you're fired. I don't know why that just cracks me up that it's like an instant fax is like big technology. I don't know.
But we have that now.
I know. I'm
like,
just
email, Twitter,
I know.
Instagram, Snapchat.
I know. I just always thought that was pretty ridiculous that they still thought there was going to be faxes in the future.
See, I told Johnny the replicator from Star Trek, being able to order whatever, and he was saying the teleporter from Star Trek. I mean, I get that. But
that'd be pretty awesome.
Let's go to what some of our super friends have said. Going over to the old email, Peter Christensen. He says, "Dear nerds, based on the Doctor Strange episode, am I a co-host or merely a panelist?" That's interesting because I was, telling Johnny that, since he filled in for Steve, he's, been now a temporary co-host, so he's got some skin in the game. Same like you, Britta. You've been a temporary co-host. Peter, I'm going to have to say panelist. I'm going to go with panelist. Maybe soon I'll have you come in and fill in permanently for Steve when he's absent, but yeah, we'll just say panelist, maybe.
Don't feel bad, Peter. I've just been a panelist up until this very moment, so.
He says, in the next Fantastic Beasts movie, I hope to see a French wizard use a wand shaped like a tiny baguette. I mean, right? That just seems like right up that alley.
Yeah.
Non-magique. Anyway. He says, I love how Johnny says that vampire iced tea has to work at night, but because he's not Blade, of course. Like it was self-evident that if you wanted daytime vampires, you'd have to bring in Blade. Maybe Wesley Snipes is available? I don't know. That's a good thing. He says, holy cow, muscle men. I completely forgot about those. I think for good reason. I forgot about them too. They're pink, they're little, they're weird. You're okay there. He says, for future tech, of course, everyone wants transporters and replicators. After that, I'd say the giant transforming jet/robots from Robotech would be pretty nice. Not super practical, but definitely awesome. I'll accept non-transforming Jaegers from Pacific Rim in a pinch. Cheers, Peter. Yeah, I'm down with having big giant robots that I can control.
Sure, why not?
I like that ability.
Sounds a little terrifying if my 3-year-old gets a hold of it, but whatever. Destroy a city.
Here's the thing, though. Where do you park one of those things?
I don't know.
I mean, you can't put it in the handicap space. You'll get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to fit in the compact space.
Just park it right on top of the building.
Right.
You can jump down. It's
There
all
you
good.
go. Let's move over to Facebook. Caleb Albers. Dearest nerds, this is a question I've been waiting for a while. But first, I wish to discuss the comments made on Superman last week. You may be on the fence about this Krypton, so be prepared. As a person who is more of a Marvel fan than DC, I look at the DC heroes as extremely overpowered characters. It's difficult to have the Justice League go up against anything without one of their heroes that could basically do it themselves. As we all know, Superman's main weakness is kryptonite, but if you're familiar with comics, he actually has another weakness, magic. The Man of Steel can take anything on physically, but anything mythical he has no defense for. And with the soon-to-come introduction of Shazam, we may get into that intro into magic as well. So right there puts quite a few stories and villains that the almighty and overpowered Justice League could face. You know, that is true. I mean,
Well thought out.
that is a true point. We just haven't really seen magic in DC movies yet.
Yeah, at all.
So, I mean, you know, it may happen. Anyway, moving on. Your comments about the question of the week. Your concerns about the replicator are valid, but a basic rule of science is that matter cannot be destroyed or created from nothing. So for a replicator to realistically work, something would have to be converted to fuel this device to create whatever item or food is wanted. So jobs galore would be available to mine things that would be able to use as fuel for replicator. So that would also resolve the way for us to make money and for spending it, and any money made would be used for those things that the machine couldn't create: homes, furniture, utilities, etc. Probably overthinking this. Here's the thing. I get what he's saying, right?
Yeah.
But what if it uses like light? And like it soaks in like light from a star, and that's the energy that it's used to create objects. You wouldn't have to be really mining that then.
But is that, like, does it have to have physical matter to be turned into something else? Just energy.
Because,
well,
I mean, the replicator,
sure.
It's kind of like the...
But then you, like, what, destroy one planet so you can feed the world for
No, this isn't like the
year?
planet killer from, you know... from freaking The Force Awakens,
right?
Where you have to suck a planet dry. But I'm saying, like, you know how we have solar panels,
sure. Oh yeah,
and
sure.
And it creates power.
That makes sense.
So like that's a form of energy, but like we're not draining the sun. The sun's just giving that off.
So everyone's gonna have tons of solar panels to feed their families.
That's right.
Love it.
The USS Enterprise D was covered in solar panels. We just never saw them.
Well, yeah, because they had an invisible shield.
Yes, exactly. That's right. Solar panels with an invisible shield. You got it, Britta.
Awesome.
He says, anyway, actually answering this week's question, I would want a set of Spider-Man's web shooters.
Nice.
And no, my reasons are not the least bit noble. I can't begin to tell you how many times I've been walking out of my doorway in the morning and seen something I've forgotten, like my wallet or keys sitting on the table, and the pain it is to walk back inside to grab it. I would just use my web shooters for things that are just out of my reach, like those darn keys and wallet. I'd also use it for tripping people that irritate me in public. Like I said, nothing noble, just helping with my laziness and for a few cheap laughs.
Okay, I gotta say, now that he says this, every mom is gonna want this. Because their kids are running off, misbehaving, you just shoot a web at them and bring them back in and say, knock it off, kids.
Think about it.
Man,
You're in
I need it.
You're in an amusement park, let's say in Disneyland, kids are starting to run away. You know, you just hit them with the webs, pull them back so they can't run off and get lost in the crowd.
Yep.
That would work.
I'm doing it. I want web shooters. Keep my kids. I love it.
Someone needs to invent that technology for real so that we can make that thing happen. Right?
Yeah, for real.
Okay.
I thought of another thing.
Okay.
In reality, a tech that would be kind of awesome.
Go.
The hollow room.
The holodeck.
Yeah, holodeck. Thank you.
Okay.
Gosh, my brain stopped. Because that would be really cool. Because then you could actually like visit places all over the world without actually traveling. I mean, I love traveling, but sometimes it's really expensive when you could just spend all your money on a holodeck in your room or go visit, you know, the local holodeck down next to the movie theater.
Okay.
And go visit Paris.
Can I interject here?
Sure.
That rationale, I'm going to have to say, is flawed because
why?
If you had the transporter, you could go anywhere.
Yeah, but if you don't have the transporter.
No. We're in a world where if holodecks exist at this point, transporters have to exist.
Yeah, but then you don't have to spend money. When you transport somewhere, you're still going to want to eat and have to spend money and stuff.
No. Pocket replicators.
Oh my gosh. You've solved the world.
No, so here's the thing. Your thing about like not wanting to travel, that
holodeck?
Yeah, with the holodeck, would not want to travel the holodeck. A transporter would take care of that. Here's your real argument.
Okay.
You can go to places that are fictional.
Sure.
You can go to places that are fantasy. You can go to places that don't exist anymore. Like you could go back to like Rome and the Parthenon when it was like the heyday, which like you couldn't do with a transporter.
I can go to Hogwarts.
You could go to Hogwarts.
I'm so gonna do
See,
that.
now that you said all
Okay,
this,
I love it.
and you're talking about transporters, and I want the TARDIS.
Yeah, right? That's what I
Right?
was just thinking. I'm like, I want the holodeck to turn into the TARDIS.
Because the holodeck and the transporter is kind of like the TARDIS, kind of wrapped up into one,
sort of bigger on the inside.
Yeah.
Technically.
Yeah. It's that wibbly
exact-
wobbly, timey-wimey
timey-wimey.
space stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, super friends, we appreciate your input once again this week. Thank you so much for taking the time and the effort to answer our silly questions. Once again, you can always respond to us when we ask our questions on our email, which is fortofnerd@gmail.com, or Facebook, which is facebook.com/fortofnerd, or Twitter, which is @fortofnerd. Or you can also reach us on our phone number, which is 801-477-7687. Give a call, leave a message, and we will play your message, as long as it's appropriate, on the podcast. So, Britta, how can our super friends help us out this week?
They can rate us on iTunes. So the Fortress of Nerditude isn't as hard to find as Ant-Man and the Wasp when they've shrunken down to molecular size.
Very well done, Britta. Very well done. So let me ask you a question, Britta.
Yes.
When the podcast drops, it's going to be the 1st of February.
Yeah.
So that means like the day after when a number of listeners might also be downloading it. It's going to be Groundhog's Day.
Groundhog Day.
Now, I don't really care about Groundhog's Day particularly. Like, I remember as a kid...
Like, I really cared about it in, like, 2nd grade. It was super
Right.
cool.
Yeah, in 2nd grade, they're like, it's super cool. I'm like... And then as I got to be an adult, I'm like, every freaking year that dang groundhog sees its shadow.
Right.
There's always going to be 6 more weeks of winter.
Because that's when March 21st is.
Right, exactly. It's exactly 6 weeks from... So, like, whoever engineered this, like, whole thing...
Genius.
Kind of made it into, it's just... I mean, it's silly. Like, it's, there's nothing big to... I mean, it's a news story. We report it. However, one perfect thing has spawned out of this holiday.
Yes.
And that is the 1993 movie Groundhog Day starring Bill Murray and Andy McDowell.
Yes.
And
classic.
this week is our movie club, and we're going to be talking about Groundhog's Day.
Woohoo!
So, I am a massive, massive, massive Bill Murray fan.
Yes, you are.
I love Bill Murray. I love his sense of humor. I love that kind of that dry wit and like the quick comebacks that he has. And this movie was like a perfect vehicle for him.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, totally.
So, Britta, give our super friends, in case they haven't seen this, which this is a gem in the comedy world. Like, this movie has been voted in numerous polls in the top 10 of like all-time comedies. You have to go see this. Like, you must. It's excellent. Britta, give our super friends a quick rundown of like the premise of what Groundhog's Day the film is.
Okay, so basically, it's about a TV news announcer, weather guy, weatherman, and he
TV news announcer guy, weather.
I got there.
Okay.
I got there. And he kind of thinks a lot of himself. He's pretty selfish, doesn't really care about others' feelings too much. He's got to go to Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, and report on Groundhog Day for like the 4th year in a row. He's really not happy about it. He's grumpy. He's annoyed. He goes and something happens on this little trip, and he gets stuck in this day, Groundhog Day, over and over and over. And he just relives this day over and over and over, and all kinds of hilarity ensues in this.
Okay.
Very basic right there.
Very basic. Yep. That's the plot of Groundhog's Day.
Yep.
Which is kind of interesting because there's been times in my life when like I've compared like what I'm doing because it's like the same thing every day, day in, day out for like long stretches of time. I'm like, I'm in the middle of the Groundhog's Day movie.
Yep.
Like that's how it feels, right?
Yep.
So let me ask you this. My first time, do you remember the first time you saw this movie?
I don't know if I remember the first time I saw this movie. It was a long time ago. Probably after it was already out on video, though. Okay. I'm pretty sure I saw it on video.
I'm pretty sure I saw this movie in the theater.
Okay.
I would have been 14 when it came out. And I'm positive I saw this in the theater over in DeKalb, Illinois.
Right.
And like I found that like really, really funny at the time. But as I've watched it over and over and over again through the years, and even as we just rewatched it the other night, there is a level of humor that, like, I always find something new. There's always
Right.
a little small quip or a little throwaway line that always just, like, really, really makes me laugh. Matter of fact, there's a point later in the movie where, and this was an ad-libbed line by Bill Murray, where Ned Ryerson, the
Yep.
sales guy that comes up and is like, Ned the needle nose, the little belly button whistle,
Ned the head.
Ned the head, is bing, that guy, and watch out that first step, it's a doozy, that guy, where he walks up to him and Bill Murray just is like, Ned, and then he grabs him in an embrace and he holds it there a little long and starts rubbing his back and he's like, I don't know what you're doing, but can you call in sick? And like that line just makes me laugh so hard, and especially knowing that, like, that wasn't in the script.
Right.
That was just Bill Murray ad-libbing, and the actor Stephen Tobolowsky, who plays Ned, like, his reaction was, like, genuine. Like, that was, like, ad-libbed at the moment. Like, he just played with it. He just went with it, and the look on his face, like, conveys a million things, and all of them make me smile. All of it makes me laugh.
Right.
And, like, I love that about this movie. Like, there's, like, little things like that are hidden, like little gems, like little things that once you know it, makes you appreciate it even more.
Yeah.
So first of all, Bill Murray, I don't think you could do this movie with any other actor.
No, probably not.
I mean, think of the big comedic actors of the time, like, guys who were just coming off stuff. Like, you wouldn't have a Tim Allen in this movie, because I
No.
think early 90s, right? Tim Allen was really big on Home Improvement on
Right.
TV. He'd done, I think, like the Santa Claus. Like, you wouldn't put Tim Allen in this movie,
Right.
right?
No.
You wouldn't put it like Dan Aykroyd or Harold Ramis, who was the director of the film, who had a small little role as the doctor. But like, you wouldn't put those kind of guys in it. You wouldn't put like an Eddie Murphy. Like,
No.
you wouldn't
too
put,
over the top.
Yeah, you wouldn't put Chevy Chase in this type of a movie.
No.
Because Chevy Chase is a little
too physical comedy.
a little too campy maybe for this. But like, Bill Murray, perfectly cast.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
What do you think about Andie MacDowell in this movie?
Okay, so here's the thing. I go back and forth with Andie MacDowell. I like her, and she's cute. And for some reason, this last time I watched, I feel like the first few times I watched it, I really liked her. I liked her character. This last time I was just like, I didn't love her as much. I get her and Bill Murray. I think that makes sense, and like it works in the movie for sure. Just for some reason, she's just not my favorite actress, but she does a good job in this movie playing the character.
Playing Rita.
Rita, yeah.
She's the producer of from the news channel that's
Yeah,
represented.
she's just like positive and kind and everything. She does a really good job playing that character. So
I looked at this time viewing her, and I kind of went, I could take her or leave her. Like,
yeah,
they could have probably swapped out a number of different actresses.
you wouldn't have cared that much.
That probably could have played opposite Bill Murray. I think she did a fine job. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But like, there was really nothing about her performance that was like, she had to be that actress to play that role.
Right.
And maybe partially because the movie is really a heavy Bill Murray vehicle. I mean, it's to star him. It's really to show off his comedic chops.
Yeah, I feel like she's not quite up to his part. It's not like a pairing like a Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan kind of movie.
Right.
It's not that kind.
Exactly.
So
some of the supporting characters, like Chris Elliott's in the movie. He's the camera guy.
yeah.
Larry. I universally can't stand almost anything that Chris Elliott is in, where he's in.
He's kind of annoying.
I don't know what it is. Just, it feels like the movies where he's been the star are just like horrible, horrible movies, like Cabin Boy. Yes. Oh gosh, yes. But
I like him in this one.
He's not bad. He doesn't like grate on my soul.
He's just a throwaway character, basically. He's just someone there to like, for Bill Murray to make fun of.
Right.
Like that's what he's there for.
Exactly. Of
And
course,
he plays that well.
this is a Bill Murray movie, so his brother
Yes.
isn't Brian Doyle Murray is in the film. I also noticed that there was a couple actors, now that I've gone back and watched this. There's an actor in the cafe scene that sits like right behind him, that they actually, when he what do they go and they drive a car and they take it on the railroad tracks and the cops are following them.
Yeah.
That actor is actually from The Burbs.
Right.
And so I recognized him. I'm like, he wasn't a very big actor, but like he was in The Burbs, and so I recognized him.
Yeah.
And then there's also the young kid who is getting married in the cafe scene. That is the actor that ends up playing
General Zod
in the Man of Steel movie, Michael Shannon. And so, and he was in Boardwalk Empire and a bunch of other stuff. He's been a bunch of villains and a bunch of horror movies. I always like going back and watching an older movie.
Looking for people who are bigger now.
Right, exactly.
And be like, oh, I know who that is.
Right.
I've seen him in something.
Right, exactly.
Which is literally what we did with this.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about this idea of you're stuck in the same day.
Right.
Okay? Bill Murray, his character, Phil Connors is stuck in the same day.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again. Did you see the progression through the movie? I really noticed it more this time that maybe like the first third of like the film where it shows him repeating the day, like it's just him trying to come to grips with like this is just going to continue on and on and on forever.
Right.
Right.
So it's just him like realizing that this is happening. Like, my day is just being exactly the same every day. And he keeps at the beginning, he keeps doing the same things every day. Going to do his little, shtick at the Punxsutawney, thing.
Reporting the news.
Yeah, reporting. Yeah. And then, and then going to the cafe to eat and then trying to drive away. And, that happens a few times. And then he tries to change it a little bit and then he just doesn't care. Like, there's just a progression. And then he just starts trying different things.
Right. So then we get into like the second. Well, let me go back a little bit.
Yeah.
I love the fact that the song "I Got You, Babe" by Sonny and Cher was in the original script. Like, this is the song that's gonna play. Like
every day.
It wasn't something that was like put in later.
Right.
That was originally in the script because they understood like how annoying that could be to hear every freaking day over and over and over again
for a very long time.
Which is funny because, like, in a couple of those shots, it shows him destroying the alarm clock.
Yeah.
And, like, that tends to be a GIF that I use a lot on Twitter when I'm, like, really tired.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to get up or something because I just love that where, he, like, smashes it with his hand or he throws it on the ground. Anyway.
Yeah.
So the first third of, like, his time, like, you kind of see him, like you said, trying to change up little things, like, very small variances to try to see if that'll break the cycle.
Right.
Then he becomes despondent. Then, like, the middle half, like, you see him doing things that if you thought you weren't... If there was no end in sight, he wants to end his life.
Right.
So he tries to electrocute himself with a toaster in the bathtub.
Right.
He jumps off, like, the top of a building.
Drives off a cliff.
He has a line later in the film where he's trying to explain all the things he's done, and he basically quotes all the things that were done to Vladimir Rasputin.
Oh.
Like, stabbed, impaled, burned, strangled, what all the stuff. Except he says electrocuted, which of course, Rasputin wouldn't have been electrocuted, right?
Yeah.
Because electricity wasn't around then. But he goes through this dark period where he steals from an armored vehicle.
Right.
And he steals Punxsutawney Phil, the woodchuck, right? And he goes, on a little driving spree trying to get out. And, like, he just wants out.
Yeah. But even before that happened, when he was living this day over and over again, he decided, well, there's no consequences. I can kind of do whatever I want. So he's like trying to sleep with different women. He tries to, at the beginning, get Andie MacDowell to sleep with him a couple of times. And that doesn't work. And then he gets really depressed and does the whole trying to kill himself stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that's a progression. And I don't know how long it took him to get to that point to try and kill himself.
Right.
I don't know how long it would take me to get to that point, that you just can't do this day one more time.
Right, because at this point, like, he's done it so many times, right? But then there's that moment where he has a day where he realizes, like, it's like he wants to try to change things, right? Like, he has a day that's kind of a little bit better than one of the others when he's, like, super depressed, and so It's almost like there's a light that flips on. At least this is how it appears to me. Kind of about the third half of this, or the third part of this, living this day over and over again.
Right.
Where he kind of goes through this thing where now he tries to better himself, learn something, maybe like try to like grow in some way. So then he decides to take piano lessons.
Right.
And of course, you see him at first and he can barely play. And then you see him again a little while later and he's playing better. And then when you see him towards the end, he's playing like a savant.
Yeah.
Because he's been taking one piano lesson every day for however long that's taken. For a very long time, right?
Yeah.
He saves a kid falling out of a tree. Mm-hmm. And he's got to be to a certain time. He helps the old ladies that have a flat tire, and he does their tire change. He saves the mayor's life when he's choking, and he gives him the Heimlich maneuver.
Right.
But then the one thing which I think was the big turning point for him is there's an old beggar man that you see earlier numerous times standing on a corner asking for money.
Right.
And so one day he goes to give him a few bucks and then just gives him the whole wad of cash.
Yeah, because he doesn't need it.
And then later on, he sees the old man kind of stumbling in an alley, and he's sick, and so he goes to take him to the hospital, and the old man dies.
Right.
And he wants to see the chart. He wants to know what's going on. So then the next day when he repeats the day again, he finds the old man, and he takes him in, and he feeds him. And he gives him a bunch of soup. And he gives him his soup, and he gives him sandwiches, and you see the look on this old man's face, this beggar man's he's just so excited to be given attention and food, but he still dies.
Caring for him.
But he still dies.
Right.
And then you see him over and over and over again a number of times trying to resuscitate the man,
right.
And trying to get him going. And he realizes, at least this is the way I perceive it, he realizes with all this power that he has, because he has all this knowledge, because he can talk to anyone and get all the knowledge and information, and the next day he just knows it all. And his memories carry over day to day to day. It's not like he just resets.
Right.
It all kind of carries with him and, continues to build and grow. He knows he can't save the man.
Right.
So then he decides to start doing things for people and helping where he can, which is, saving the choking mayor and, the kid falling out of the tree and
fixing the flat tire for the little old ladies.
Right, exactly. And the piano lessons and whatnot. And
the guy who's choking. And
right. He takes
all kinds of
he
stuff.
starts learning things where he learns to do ice sculptures with chainsaws and ice sculptures, normally, and he learns how to throw cards into a hat, because he's spent a lot of time.
Well, and he even starts to just get to know all the people that are around him.
Right.
He can tell you who they are, what they want out of life, what their history is. He knows these people. He's actually taken the time to get to know each person.
Right. So here's something I started thinking about, right? The writers originally said that they wanted this period where he's repeating this day to be for 10,000 years. That was their original idea. And then as they were kind of writing the script, they kind of narrowed it down. They said, well, it's 10 years.
Right.
That's what they've said. And Harold Ramis and Danny, what's his name?
Another R.
Danny is not. I was gonna say Danny Rand, but that's the Iron Fist.
Yeah.
Danny Rubin.
There you go.
Rubin? Danny Rubin. Rubin, not Rubin. Rubin. Yeah. The script writer, they decided it was about 10 years.
Right.
Now, of course, the internet over the years has done studies, how long would it take to become
calculations.
Try to be calculations, how long would it take you to be this proficient to play, to play the Rachmaninoff song that plays. And some people said, it would take you, way longer than 10 years. And But I started thinking about it. If you were to take a piano lesson every single day,
right,
for 10 years, that time, because his skills are still building, they transfer day to day, so he would become better and better, exponentially. That would start growing, the more time he's been playing.
Right.
You see these kids who start playing piano when they're 3 or 4 or 5, and they play for 6-7 years, and they're in their early teens, and they're just whizzes.
Right.
But they're maybe only doing, piano lessons 2-3 times a week.
Yeah.
And they have
practicing every day, though.
Practice time, but imagine if you had a piano lesson every day and you were probably practicing every day as well. Mm-hmm. That would go, and you'd be better.
Yeah,
exactly. The ice sculpting, all that. 10,000 years, or what original idea, kind of crazy, but 10 years. Can you imagine repeating the same day over and over and over for 10 years, identical?
No. I really can't. It kind of boggles my mind a little bit.
So I've thought about that some, and it's an interesting idea. But what's really interesting to me is that there's been like religious groups that have like studied this movie,
Right.
and applied like try to like look at it from like religious philosophy, like what it could mean and whatnot. And like I look at it as a comedy, like it's a vehicle for Bill Murray, and it's just a lot of fun, and it's a lot of laughs and a lot of good times, with some moral. There is kind of a moral to this story. He does learn how to become a better person, and in the end, when he has that last day, he doesn't have an agenda. He's not trying to sleep with women. He's not trying to like gain something. He's not trying to break the cycle. He's not trying to break the loop. He's just trying to help people and just trying to have a good day.
Right.
And like do things for the right reasons.
Right.
And then that's when it changes. And then he gets out of that loop and he's able to kind of go forward.
Yeah. I feel like it's at that point where he finally learns how to actually be selfless.
Right.
To think about other people first, not what he's trying to get out of any sort of situation. Just purely about the people.
Right.
Yeah.
So this movie was made for, I believe, about $14 million.
Okay.
And it made $14 million in its opening weekend. It went on to go make more than that.
Right.
I would say anytime a comedy makes more money than what it costs to make it, it's probably a good sign. Because I feel like comedies can come out a lot, but there's a lot of comedies that like fall short.
Right.
Right? Especially like now we're in this era where like we dump in like just crazy amounts of money into all sorts of movies. Yep. And even big comedies, like, you get like big stars. Like, don't get me wrong, Bill Murray was a big star at the time. But like a lot of the other supporting cast, like, the woman that plays Nancy that he talks to, and Doris the waitress, and his piano teacher, like those people weren't big people.
Right.
Bill Murray has
not like it's a huge ensemble cast.
Right, exactly. Like the only other big names that you really would know would be Andie MacDowell and maybe Chris Elliott at the time.
Yeah.
But it made more money than it did. Do you think it deserves a place in the top 10 of all-time comedies?
I don't know. I mean, in a sense, yes, because it is a really great comedy, and it has developed like one of those kind of like cult classic followings, where, it's played every year on Groundhog's Day for 24 hours straight, basically nonstop. Right. Like,
which is awesome in and of itself.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. So in a sense, yes. For me, it probably wouldn't be in one of my top 10 ever. But that's just me. And I've gone through phases where I didn't really like this movie in the past. Like, I liked it the first time, and then I didn't really like it, and now I really like it again. But I'm not going to watch it over and over again. But I can see the elements of it, and how it could be. It could be in the top 10. I guess it just would depend what the other 9 are. I'd have to think about that.
My number one of all time is Ghostbusters.
There you go.
I mean,
yeah,
the comedy in that movie stands the test of time.
Yeah.
Those same jokes, I mean, it looks a little dated now, but the comedy just is rock solid. And, that was also written by Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd, and I think they're great comedy writers, and Harold Ramis is a great comedy writer. And, he worked with Danny Rubin on Groundhog Day. I love Groundhog Day. It is definitely in my top 10 of comedies. I can watch this movie over and over and over again. Not usually back to back,
right?
Like on Groundhog Day, but I mean, I can watch it numerous times in a year, and it doesn't really get old,
right?
Because there's always something new for me to find. One of his days, a little something different goes on. Like when he talks to the one guy in the hallway, and one day he just decides to talk to him in Italian,
right?
And it just like shocks the guy, and stuff like that. I'm good with that. I love this movie. I definitely think that it's worth a viewing if people haven't seen it. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a little older now, but what another thing I really like about this, though, and one of the reasons why, is that this was supposed to be, in Pennsylvania, but truth be told, it was filmed in Woodstock, Illinois, which is not very far from where I grew up.
Oh, yeah.
So it's, kind of a close to home movie for me. And on top of that, like, Harold Ramis really wanted to kind of have that city kind of have that bleak winter Wisconsin feel to it.
Right.
And so to me, it always has a more Midwestern feel than like
East Coast.
East Coast, you know,
Yeah.
Pennsylvania, because it's supposed to be outside of like Pittsburgh, right, or Philadelphia.
Right.
And so like it doesn't really have like the Pennsylvania feel. It wasn't filmed there. It was filmed in Illinois. It's kind of made to have that kind of bleak Wisconsin winter feel to it. So it kind of reminds me of like, kind of in the aesthetics of it, kind of like grumpy old men, you know, kind of that kind of wintry feel to it. It kind of has a little bit of that going on there. So I love this movie. It reminds me of home. I love Bill Murray. I love his comedy and his sense of humor. I think it's one of a perfect vehicle for him.
Yeah.
If you remove Ghostbusters is probably the perfect vehicle for him. At least the first one. The second one was a quick rush sequel, let's be honest. But let me ask you this, Britta, because this is going to be our question of the week for our super friends.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you first. Is there one day in your life that you would want to live over and over and over, to be caught in a loop?
Oh, gosh.
That you would want that you would be willing, I guess, not want, be willing to live over and over and over again for like a period of 10 years?
That's a really great question. And I don't know. Probably, because I'm the nerd that I am, the day that I would probably want to live over and over again was probably our last day at Disneyland last October a year ago. So October of 2015, when we were there as a family, you and me and both the boys, and we just spent the day together at Disneyland. Because then we could do absolutely everything possible at Disneyland, eat every food at Disneyland.
Okay.
Just do everything. Meet every single character. I mean, yeah, we could totally. Because I am obsessed with Disneyland. Plus, we'd be all together as a family.
You wouldn't want to go back and relive the day when you and I went for our first time, like on our honeymoon. And it was like the winter time. It was kind of a little late, and like we had that magical like snow thing, and all the snow was falling.
Oh, the Christmas at Disneyland.
And we kissed it under the snow at Disneyland. It was like 70 degrees.
That was very magical and romantic. But I kind of like the idea of, well, I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't want to live 10 years with the kids as toddlers.
See?
Good point. One of them was still in diapers. The other one wouldn't go to the bathroom in a public toilet.
See? Like, that's what I'm saying.
That's why I thought I'd have to really think about it. Like, really think about it every day. Yeah, that might be. Maybe do that one.
See, like, if I were to say, like, I would love to relive the day where, like, you know, Charlie was born. Because
I don't want to.
See, that's exactly right. Like,
go through labor every day for 10 years.
That's exactly right.
No offense, but I would not like you at the end of those 10 years.
That's right. Now, however, if I was reliving that day, you wouldn't have a memory of it being that long, right?
Sure.
I was trying to think of like a day that I would want to relive, that I could relive over and over and over and over again. And I was trying to think of it, and I was like, you know, maybe. It's weird because, like, you're right. Like, the whole Disney thing, like, last year, kids were in diapers, and, you know, Charlie didn't want to use the bathroom because they were too loud when they flushed.
But maybe after 10 years, I'd like, figure out the tricks to make it work, and then...
No. They'd still be toddlers.
I don't know.
They would still be our boys at that age, locked for a 10-year cycle.
I know, but you could figure out what it was that would make them change their mind about the toilets. I don't know.
Yeah, no. I'm trying to think. I think this is tough because I think that there's like days like when I was in high school, like on like a fall day where like Steve and I were like, you know, just goofing around and like, you know, messing around, like, you know, making like little videos that like were kind of like the precursor to YouTube stuff, right? Or like, you know, driving our cars through big piles of leaves and, you know, just like hanging out with our friends. Like some of those days, like I could relive over and over and over again for a 10-year period. But like that would get trying, like that would get old.
Mm-hmm. And you'd pick a day without me, really?
Here's the day. Here's the day I think I probably would want to relive over and over and over again for 10 years. The day that the Cubs won the World Series. I think.
Not surprised.
I think I could relive that day and relive the ups and the downs and the excitement and the thrill of that last Game 7 over and over and over and over again. But then again, I'm going to know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
After the first time.
after like the first like 30, 40 times of watching that game, you'd be just like, I'm gonna go watch a movie. I don't need to watch this game again.
So maybe I need to put a little more thought into this too. But Super Friends, this is my question for you, because I think this is an interesting one. Because do you do it with your family? Do you do it with your loved ones? Do you do something by yourself when you didn't have as many maybe distractions or things to worry about, or is this from your childhood? Whatever it is, I want to hear from you. What day would you be willing to live over and over and over again, a la Groundhog's Day?
Mm-hmm.
Let us know. I'm really curious to see what some of you have to say. You can always respond to us. We are on email, which is fortofnerd@gmail.com, Facebook, which is facebook.com/fortofnerd, Twitter @fortofnerd, or our voicemail, our phone number, 801-477-7687. Let us know, what is that one day that you would relive again over and over and over again, stuck in that loop?
Don't tell me it's your wedding day, because no one wants to relive their wedding day over and over again.
Yeah, because you don't eat.
It's exhausting.
It's stressful.
Just because you love that person doesn't mean it's a great day.
Spoken like my wife.
I love you, Spencer.
Yeah, I love you too, Britta. Anyway, Super Friends, thank you so much for joining us once again this week. We look forward to your answers, and we look forward to talking with you again next week. Britta, thank you for being able to jump in and fill in and be my co-host tonight.
Of course, I'm glad to be here.
Always glad to have you on the Fortress of Nerditude, and for a movie club, which is kind of a thing you do with us quite often.
Yeah, super fun.
Okay. Well, from us here at the Fortress of Nerditude to you out there, may the Force be with you always.